Welcome to episode 25 of the Wiley Wire. Today we're going to break down the Iran conflict, the 2-week ceasefire that was put in place this week. We're going to cover some sports with the great Masters tournament going on, fraud update in California with autism centers, and did Ilhan Omar marry her brother to get immigration in our country? And how much did she know about the Somali fraud? We're going to cover that. And I've got some strange news that Iranian officials, leadership, that are now dead, family members, are living luxurious lives in Los Angeles. Welcome to the Wiley Wire. I'm going to talk about this ceasefire or non-ceasefire, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different angles, stories out there about it, what to believe, what not to believe. But like I've said in past episodes, I gave this war at least a month. You can go back and check. I said at least a month. I said troops will be on the ground. There's special forces on the ground. We have tons of troops lined up over there, ready to go if need be. And they were saying 4 days. Whoever was given that intel was obviously pushing a narrative that wasn't true. There's a lot of different people in Trump's ear, not making excuses for Trump, but I had it at a month when it started, and we're a little over a month now, and we're trying to close the gap on that timeline and get this thing over with as quick as possible. That's what seems to be being done right now. But let's talk about this ceasefire. Strange things happen right off the bat. You know, you have a lot of different news networks saying that Iran violated it, shot, missiles at Israel. What it actually happened is Israel shot missiles at Lebanon, killing more Hezbollah terrorists. But Iran shot missiles back at Israel for doing that. And Hezbollah is a faction of Iranian terror cells. So they have carried out thousands of killings on Americans, Israelis, and Iran saying that the ceasefire has been violated. So then they closed the straits, and they opened the straits, and like 15 ships got through. It's just absolute AWOL right now. We don't know what's going on, what to believe. You hear a story over here, then you hear a story over there, and then things contradict each other. I know Susie Wiles is totally against this. She's in Trump's ear that the war is hurting your poll numbers. And then you have factions saying that most Republicans are for the war. MAGA's other outlets saying 1 out of 4 Republicans are for the war. And who knows where they get this polling at. Well, my stance on it is Trump has been against Iran since his early days, not as president, just as a public figure. But Trump also ran on no wars, de-escalation. And I've talked about it in the past. I've gotten some goofy comments. I won't even respond to those, but yeah, he prevented a lot of wars. I mean, the Pakistan-India war, that's just one of them, right when he got in office. Now, the one he did not is the Ukraine-Russia, and he did go on his campaign trail saying he'd end that in a week, and he came out and said it was bigger than he thought it was. So I always thought when he was saying he'd end it in a week, I was skeptical about that. And sure enough, no one's even talking about Ukraine anymore. It's not even on the radar. Russia loves what's going on right now. They really do. Until it really starts affecting them and their economy, which it probably will after a while. But all that being said, all these different factions, all this different information, is there a ceasefire? Is the ceasefire standing strong, standing firm? I don't think so. In my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. But I think the ceasefire is just a name at this point. I think Israel is kind of doing their own thing, and they always have been. And I think that they pressure the United States to do this. And I think the United States needed to stop Iran, definitely stop them from getting nuclear weapons. And then it turned into this type of war and then regime change. But it did seem like from an outsider looking in, and again, I don't have the intel that people, that are in the circle have, but it didn't seem like a unilateral mission. I mean, did Israel help us? Yes. Most of the weapons to Israel, of course. Does Israel have one of the best undercover agents, Mossad, in the world? Yes. They have so many different outlets, LLCs. I mean, they had those pagers blow up. Remember that? On the Hezbollah. And they were tracking those things for 10 years. They are an unbelievable intelligence agency, the Mossad. And I don't think that they're just kind of like coattailing around with the United States. I think they're more in this than ever before. And the United States is obviously the superior power, in my opinion. I think it's kind of like a 51-49 thing going on, in my opinion. Israel, 49, United States. And now the United States is trying to do peace talks, make a deal, and I don't think Israel wants that. I don't think they want a deal. I think they want them wiped off the face of the earth. I've seen a lot of different commentators that I've watched for years using the nuclear word, and that's something that just, to me, is nuts by every way, shape, or form. And I think we've crushed Iran to the point where it'll be generations till they actually come back. Now, this part of it is the most difficult part, which I said in other episodes. The military infrastructure that we have and what we're able to do with it is at a level that no one's ever seen before. And just rescuing that pilot, they were able to hear his heartbeat 2 miles away. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. They were able to hear his heartbeat 2 miles away. That's how they found him. So I'm telling you this right now, the United States has the greatest military in the world by far, and we're able to bring Iran to its knees. But it doesn't mean Iran is going to give up. Doesn't mean they're going to... They know they have the straits. They know it affects all the countries. They know it affects Trump's numbers. My personal opinion is the ceasefire with a deal is just going to buy them time. And we never were able to trust Iran in the past. I don't know how the heck we're going to trust them now. I don't know how to get the straits. I don't know how we can actually take the straits without putting military on the ground. So, I mean, those are the options from what I've heard. Military on the ground, take the straits. You hear wild people saying nuke them. That'd be nuts. But they have been devastated to the point where it'll be generations upon generations. But we don't want one generation from now the same problem we had before. So we're going to continue to cover this. It's something that I expected. I thought it'd be a month. And it's a little over a month now. But things can end quickly. I know there's some talks that are going to supposedly happen in Pakistan this weekend. I've heard that those might be called off. I've heard the ceasefire is on. Like I said before, I heard the ceasefire is off. So we'll continue to cover this. The news is just turning so quickly. And I originally was going to name this episode, a ceasefire. Now I have a ceasefire with a question mark on it. Because I think the ceasefire is out the door right now. I want to touch base on the media outlook on this war in the last 24 to 48 hours. Far left, left, right, far right, center. There are some idiots out there. Far right. And many of the idiots are far left as well. The more center people seem to be looking at this with the best interest of the country as a whole and not get Trump. Let's make him look bad. Let's leak information so American service members are at risk. Let's hope for the worst so Trump looks bad. But let me just start with some stuff I saw on CNN calling Trump a chicken for not following through with basically obliterating Iran. Like, aren't you happy he didn't do that? I said in my last episode, I hope I'm not talking about this on Friday's episode after it's already happened, and it hasn't. I'm thankful for that. But you got far right people going, nuke them. It's like they've come full circle, like completely far left wackos and complete far right war lunatics have come full circle at one point in the last 24 hours. The people furthest from each other, as far as views, are all now. One group's calling Trump a chicken for not doing it, far left radicals. And then you got the far right war psychos saying nuke them. So it's like, this is where it's gotten to. I'm just sitting back going, judging things from history I've seen. Like I said in the last episodes, we should say, this war is going to last more than a month. I hope it doesn't, but I don't see it going too long. That's not what Trump ran on. He didn't run in going into a war. But all in all, what he's done in Iran is something that nobody thought was possible. Administration after administration after administration, left, right, doesn't matter. They all wanted this, and no one was able to do it. And Trump's got Iran on the brink. Now it's just like, how do you shut this thing down and pull out, or it doesn't go any longer than a month, which it already has, but not much longer than a month. And it looks like that's what he's trying to do right now. I just think there's a lot of crazies in his ear. There's some good people in his ear. There's some people that left the administration. You got people talking about nukes. You got people talking about nukes. You got people talking about pulling out. You had people told him it's going to take four days. Again, not making excuses for Trump. He's the president. He makes the ultimate decision. But I don't know how this is going to play out, but I just thought it was just crazy watching this come full circle. The far left and the far right actually were agreeing that they wanted total destruction of Iran, like obliteration. But the far left lunatics were calling Trump a chicken for not doing it, and the far right lunatics are just like, we have enough of his ear, maybe we can get this done. So that's where we're at on this. It's not something I want to continue to cover, and I want it to end. I think if somehow we can get control of the straits, I think that would be the ultimate goal. And I don't know if that's the goal of the Trump administration, but if we were able to do that, that would open up tons of doors for a lot more revenue. It wouldn't be something that Iran could hold hostage like they are as we speak, as I recorded this episode. So, the Straits is Iran's last power grab. I mean, that's all they have left. That's all the power they have. So there's other countries that can get in their ear. I probably have to guess China got in Iran's ear and got them to the table for the ceasefire. And it's just not going the way, I expected the ceasefire to go. Maybe the ceasefire was never even real, or it was looked upon as a possibility, and all off the bat, it was gone. So, or so they say it's still on, but there's vessels that have gone through. I think that they said 15 vessels as of this morning. I pre-recorded the show on Thursday. Vessels were going through and they were charging them like a pretty hefty toll. Like I was hearing in the reports of millions of dollars. So that's not part of the agreement. The U.S. saying on the other side that shooting strikes in Lebanon isn't part of the ceasefire, I should say. So I don't know what's going on. I just know that Trump knows that he needs to end this as fast as possible. So I'm going to stick to what I said. It'll be at least a month. I just can't see how this can go any longer than 2 months, just from an economic standpoint. Trump's all about the economy. He's all about America winning in the stock market and money and all that. And people happy about the economy, America first. This is turning into not America first. If it prolongs and we find ourselves in something that we can't get out of. And I don't at this point see that. I think we can get out of it. I think Trump's doing his best to get out of it. I just think if he has the right people in his ear, we can do that and get the straits controlled. That's all I'll say about that. Controlled, whether that's us controlling it or somebody, the group of countries that can control it and man it. But we'll see what happens. We'll be back with our next segment.
Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build the case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Leering Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it, but we at least need to investigate it, because if people can commit wrongdoing without even the fear that they're going to be found out, that's a fundamental problem. So I'm worried about the immigration fraud. I'm also worried about what did Ilhan Omar know about what was happening in the Somali community, and why was nobody looking into it until, frankly, Donald Trump.
As you watch that footage, as we led into this segment, J.D. Vance talking about immigration fraud by Ilhan Omar. And this has been trickling around in the news for years. And at first, it sounded like it was just a bunch of jargon by the right, just trying to discredit her and all that. And then once Trump says something about something in the news, he tends to know something that we don't after watching him for a while. And he's come out multiple times now and said that Ilhan Omar married her brother and created, immigration fraud to come here. J.D. Vance kind of talks about that in his interview, that immigration fraud was definitely on the table. He didn't get into specifics because obviously it's an ongoing investigation. But he also leads into what she knew about the Somali fraud that was going on in Minnesota. All that money that's being laundered out, who is getting it. I mean, there's also talks about the winery somehow was worth, I talked about it in other episodes, $30 to $40 million when it was worth nothing a year before. No wines being dished out. It's just a money laundering scam. So he didn't get into all the details, but these are the things that the DOJ is definitely looking into. But he is really harping on the immigration fraud. So that tells me that her marrying her brother to get into the country is probably most likely legit. It's been being talked about for years now. And if it wasn't true, I'm not sure why her camp did not debunk it or give proof of how this is just a slander of her name and all that. time will tell. But now that Todd Blanche is in, he seems like he's going to be more of a go-getter. He's a strict follower of the law. A lot of people are against this because, he has a lot of ties to the Democratic Party. He's represented the Clintons. He's represented Trump. He's represented all different, facets of politicians. And he seems to be willing to do the work that a lot of people weren't willing to do. He also talks about how Trump was targeted by the DOJ throughout his campaign and throughout his history of getting into politics. So I'm not sure where this is going to go, but if somebody created immigration fraud to get here and now is running a portion of government for Minnesota committing fraud, we have to go down that rabbit hole, and we have to definitely file charges against somebody that's committing this type of fraud. Continue to follow up on this Ilhan Omar thing it's just mind-blowing. With the winery now, marrying her brother to get into the country, committing immigration fraud, overseeing Somali fraud, which is what is being stated by a lot of different people that are deep inside the investigation that have their eyes on it. They're not investigating it, but they know what's going on in the investigation. It's mind-blowing. I mean, I always just try to flip it around. If somebody will move to Denmark, fake their immigration to Denmark, then start getting into politics in Denmark, I'm just picking a country, and winning, and then letting all this fraud happen in your state you're representing. I mean, people would be in Denmark would be just absolutely beside themselves. But here it's like they threw out back in the day that, she married her brother, and we kind of talked about that, and it was people like, that's just a hit job on her. And it's turning out to be not a hit job, and nobody in her camp has debunked it. She's married 3 times. She has a fake winery out in California. We've talked about that in prior episodes. And it looks like the DOJ is investigating her. They're not talking about it because obviously they can't talk about ongoing investigations. Neither can JD Vance, but he can tell you what they're looking into. And I have to say, she had to have known about the fraud in Minnesota. She had to have. There's no way she wasn't getting kickbacks from that. Do I have any proof of that? No. But if she wasn't, why would she let it happen? Why would Governor Walz let it happen? It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And I hope if she did commit crimes, she's held accountable for them. And if the Justice Department finds out she didn't do any of these things, then that's the law. I mean, then she shouldn't be charged, and she should continue to be a senator. Hopefully they vote her out, but this is the country we live in. The other thing I want to talk about in the interview, he talks about autism centers in California and how many he's shut down already. We shut down a ton of them. Hundreds. And it's billions and billions of dollars of fraud. I mean, we've talked about it in prior episodes. We've had footage of it in prior episodes. The James O'Keefe thing kind of died down. People show that he got arrested and all that, but he didn't get arrested for the Los Angeles investigation he was doing. He got arrested for somebody filed a restraining order on him that he was investigating, that he used to work with. So that's a whole different side of the story. It has nothing to do with him, from what I was told, with his investigating in California. But Nick Shirley's finding a lot of stuff. And JD Vance, I guess, is the fraud czar now. He's already doing a way better job than Kamala when she was the border czar. Her job when she was the border czar was to not do her job, and she's probably told not to do her job. That's why everybody came in here illegally. But JD Vance, off to a good start. I want to see people get prosecuted if they committed a crime. people are losing trust in the system, no doubt about it. There's just so many people that lost trust in the voting system, lost trust in, law enforcement, prosecutions, judges mainly. And we got to get back to, just doing the right thing. And that's something that Todd Blanche said yesterday. They want to get rid of the people that just didn't do the right thing. He said there was a lot of judges when Trump got indicted 4 times. Some of the stuff was just insane that he got indicted for. One was he paid the loan back completely, and they're charging him for estimating his wealth of his property, which he didn't. And his Mar-a-Lago, that was a whole different thing. But either way, they raided his house. Completely unbelievable. But back to what I'm talking about. He said that judges and prosecutors got to do the right thing. So let's just say you have a bunch of right-wing prosecutors, and the people want Ilhan Omar arrested. You got to do the right thing. If there's no crime that she committed, even though you may not like her politics or you may not like what she stands for, you can't arrest her. It's got to be fair, and it's got to be by the law. And if she did something wrong and they arrest her, then that's what should happen. But I'm interested to see what Todd Blanche is going to do. A lot of people are real weary about him being in the position he is. If he seems like a good guy to me, just listening to him, I don't sense a lot of fakeness in him. But he has represented a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans, but he's a lawyer. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll be back with our next thing. Let's get into the Masters, one of my favorite events in sports. I'm going to give you my top 5 golfers I think that are going to win the Masters. And I'm going to give you my number 1 pick. Top 5 guys: Bryson DeChambeau, Scottie Scheffler, Fleetwood is playing amazing. I'm going to go with Justin Rose, who always seems to hang around towards the end, and Brooks Koepka. Those are the guys I'm going to be watching to do some damage in the tournament and be, at the end of the day, at the leaderboard. Who I'm picking for the Masters is going to be Bryson DeChambeau. I think he's due. He's just so electric when he's playing really well. I think it would be really fun to see for golf. And anybody that's the great thing about golf. It's like, it doesn't matter when it's down to the wire. It's still exciting. I like all those guys. I'm going with Bryson DeChambeau, and look for the other guys, Fleetwood, Rose, Scheffler, to do some damage. But that's my pick. And with the Masters, I want to talk about this. I was saying this to a friend. I'm the only guy to turn on the Masters 2 times. I'm admitting this on the air. I don't know why I didn't go the first time. It was a Monday I got the offer. I think my wife had something to do. It was like she couldn't get out of it, and I'd have to drive there with my buddy and his wife. It was like him and his wife and me, and I decided not to go. I still kick myself every day for that. And then last year's Masters, I got offered to go, and I was out of town. I even tried to switch my flight to come back. So this year, I made the calls around, trying to get into the Masters. Does anybody know anybody? And it was like, crickets. So I deserve it. The only guy offered 2 times to go and turned it down. Again, one day I'll get there, making sure my calendar is completely empty, Masters week, no traveling, and that call will come real soon. But the Masters is one of those events, I hear you can't use your phone. You have to put your phone away. And it's just one of those old school events. I think, hot dogs are $1.50 or something. It's like Costco prices. Beers are like super cheap, $2. And the course is just so immaculate, which is breathtaking. So one day I'll get there. But those are my picks for the Masters. And we'll be back with our WTF segment.
The Wiley Wire segment where Brandon asks, "What the fuck is this?"
We're back with our WTF segment, and we cover some things that are funny in this segment, and other times we cover things that are just WTF not funny, and this is WTF not funny. Verified sources confirm that Soleimani, which was one of the worst terrorists Iran had, he was killed by the Trump administration in his first term, and it was like devastation for the Iranian regime at that time. Nothing like what's happening now, but back then that was a huge hit, getting Soleimani. But according to verified sources, his niece is living a luxurious life in Los Angeles. She posts videos of herself driving Humvees, shooting guns, wearing what typical American women wear, totally against what the regime is fighting for and what they do to women, number one. Number two, when she was caught by ICE, and she is in ICE detention right now, she actually called one of her boyfriends, it seems like she has multiple ones, to get her out of there. And I'm going to roll a clip of Fox News headlining how this went down, who she is, and after this clip, she's not the only one that's here. Roll the clip.
Reportedly called her former boyfriend for help to escape the facility. But according to the New York Post, he declined the call, saying this, quote, "I don't want anything to do with her. She scares me. I was so afraid of her. She knows how to make herself seem like an angel, and you feel like the devil. She takes advantage of every man she knows." Now, another man, a Los Angeles hairdresser, said this about the situation. Thank God, after hearing of her arrest by ICE. He said, "That's good. She's a stalker." In court filings, he said the woman subjected him to emotional abuse, harassment, and that she threatened to hurt herself. All of this highlighting a tale of two Irans. Ordinary Iranians facing crackdowns and execution.
To say you can't make this stuff up, as I always say that, but I mean, come on. You have Soleimani's niece, one of the biggest terrorists the West has ever faced. All the Americans he's killed with landmines and different strategic terrorist attacks, funding terrorist regimes and terrorist outfits. And his niece is living here, lifestyles of the rich and famous in Los Angeles. And that's, again, why you don't know who's here. You really don't know who's here. I don't have all the details on when she came in and how it happened, but there was a great window of opportunity from 2020 to 2024 to easily come over here. And if I had to guess, without any proof, it's probably when it happened. But let's just say it didn't. Let's just say it happened during the Trump administration, or it happened during the Obama administration, which I doubt. But it's just unbelievable that somebody's family member of can come into this country, especially that type of family member. Soleimani, I mean, guy's ruthless. And he was killed during, of course, the first Trump administration. I think it was 2018, he was killed. It was a huge blow to the Iranian leadership at that time. Nothing like what's going on now, but back then it was a huge blow. But we're not going to stop there. If anyone remembers Screaming Mary, she was the mouthpiece for Iran when they took the 44 hostages. I think it was 44 or 50 hostages and held them for 444 days. She was the mouthpiece for it, the talker about it, the Screaming Mary, they called her. Well, her son's here, and he's a professor in Los Angeles at a Chicago university. It's, I guess, a branch of Chicago University that's based out of Los Angeles. I've never heard of that, but there he is. You know, you can see on the screen, Screaming Mary's son working as a professor in the United States of America. Now, I'd have to say that's probably a check mark. They need to check the box when you become a citizen of the United States legally that you're Soleimani's niece or your Screaming Mary's son would kind of be a stamp denied to come in here. Not to sound ruthless or mean, but I don't want their family members here, whether they're good people or not. And the fact that they're coming from a country that kills gay people, makes women cover themselves completely, and here's Soleimani's niece walking around and like all American women do. It's just hypocrites, really. And maybe they fled the country because they didn't want this Iranian regime to control how they dress, what they think, what they wear, what they say. Maybe they did it for good intentions, but regardless, it shouldn't have been allowed to happen. We'll be back with a wrap. Thanks for watching episode 25 of the Wiley Wire. We'll be back next Tuesday with episode 26. We will only be doing one episode next week. I'll be traveling to a convention, but we'll be back the following week with our scheduled 2 episodes. Thanks for watching. Follow us, like us, share us at the Wiley Wire. Thanks for staying wired. We'll see you next week.
The Wiley Wire dives into sports, music, politics, health, and trending topics for entertainment, info, and education. Listener discretion advised. May include mature themes, explicit language, controversial views, or sensitive content. Not suitable for under 18 or all audiences. Parents, please supervise. All opinions from hosts, guests, and contributors are personal and don't reflect our official views. Information isn't guaranteed to be accurate. Do your own research and consult qualified professionals.